Hello buddy, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War Warhammer 2 quick match gameplay. This time around we are on the Plains of Spiders playing as the forces of the Skaven against the forces of Brettonia. And for this matchup, which is often considered one that's a bit of a on the rougher end for Skaven since they do occasionally struggle to repel cavalry, I wanted to go for a bit of a hybrid build. I felt that to counter the Brettonian infantry, I'd like to go for something a little more artillery heavy. But to counteract the cavalry, which I expected to see a lot of, I wanted to actually try to just match them in melee. And so the build here is kind of focused on that, with a lot of rat ogres, some helping abominations, and plague claw catapults making up really the centerpiece. As we can see here, front line is dirt cheap. A horde of Skaven slave spears backed up by a single unit of clan rat spears. Obviously, these guys are winning no beauty contests whatsoever. Trash infantry, but there's a lot of them, and I can use them to bog down Brettonian troops. Men-at-arms, which are pretty common in this matchup, will take a while to chew through these guys, so I think Skaven slaves can stall there. They're a good speed one. On the flanks, it's more Skaven slaves all around. We also do have the Council Guard here in the back, the Regiment Renowned Stormer and Halberds. That's a bit of a stable anchor. With their 90 armor, solid combat stats, AP, and anti-large, they make a really potent option against Brettonia. They can really slow them down. They can honestly deal with Brettonian infantry pretty well and dish out some hurt to the calf. For the firing line, we do have 2 plague claw catapults, which are being screened by 3 rat ogres as well as a help abomination here, which are all there to provide some high mass AP punching power, something to deal with the knights, something to deal with the enemy lords in close quarters. Now, as you can see here, the plague claws are going to be teeing off on my opponent's spearmen right off the bat, firing at what they can get. For my leadership corps, in the meantime, we do have a plague priest. He's simply coming in with the double summons as well as scrying stone. I was hoping to keep him around a little bit longer just in case, try to protect him a little bit. And then we do have Icky Claw alongside him. Icky Claw does have the Howling Warp Gale to snare enemy flyers. So my opponent went with the flyer build. He's got Warp Lighting to nuke enemy blobs. And then Death Frenzy to keep troops in the fight with that immune psychology, as well as boost their damage. So this is pre-patch, so the weapon strength buff here is useless. Besides that, we do have Brass Orb for the snare, unlimited power for Winds of Magic, and Storm Demon for that beautiful magic missile. Essentially an Amber Spear. It's a really strong spell. Now for my opponent, he has gone for a very wide Brettonian build. As you can see, Mounted Yeoman here in the vanguard, a whole line of Spearmen at Arms with shields composing the front line here, screening for a horde of Battle Pilgrims. And this is actually pretty terrifying for my build here, because honestly, Battle Pilgrims, not the greatest combat unit, but against lower-end Skaven troops, they will mulch them no problem. So these Holy Wardens especially will just tear through Skaven slaves like a hot knife through butter. And plague claw catapults honestly aren't that good against them, because the Holy Wardens are pretty scattered. These guys are pretty spread out. They're scattered. It's hard to get some good connections there. So really, I'll need my Rat Ogres and Icky Claw to really work overtime to deal with these guys. Now behind that, we do have Lewin coming in on horseback, which is something you do not see every day. He's pretty kitted out. He's actually got, I believe, most of his kit here, including the Sword of Corone. He does have the Ladies Champion for that heal, the Beloved Son of Brettonia, all those perks. Solid combatant. He doesn't have AP, but still his stats are very good. So while obviously he's not going to be winning any beauty contests, he is still a threat, especially to the Plague Priest and the Rat Ogres, and honestly even Ikit has to respect him a bit, even on the Doom Wheel. Ikit will run over all this infantry, but Lewin's a decent combatant. A whole bunch of peasant bows are behind that. These guys are kitted out with pox arrows for that poison debuff, though once again, keep in mind, poison is not affecting weapon strength, so it's not a full debuff, but still, the snare is potent, and it will do a lot of damage to my poor ogres. More Spearmen at Arms in the back, providing a sort of cleanup and backline defense, and then a horde of cheaper cap defenders of the Fleur de Lis. We've got some Knights Errant out there. We do have some Knights of the Realm, as well as Knights Errant diving into the ditch here to evade NA fire. And as you can see, the Plague Claw Catapult here, firing at the Battle Pilgrims. What I did was kind of estimated how long, since my opponent started back here, and I kind of estimated how long it would take his troops to get into the firing arc. And I figured, why waste the opportunity to get some shots in, waiting for the archers to get in range. And we fired a volley into the Spearmen, following up with volleys into the Battle Pilgrims, softening up this infantry a little bit before they get into range, even though my key target here is the Peasant Bows. These guys have pretty terrible leadership with 49 right now, but that's souped up by nearby leadership and whatnot. If we look at that, the base is only 36. And so the Plague Claws will start raining in, and between the contaminated effect on the shots, plus the artillery fire and the damage, peasant leadership is not holding up at all. You can see here, the leadership is really in the gutter. And that's just one volley, and not even particularly good volleys here. It's just a handful of bottles shaved off. But the follow-up volley here is going to do even more, and we're going to watch these peasants really start reconsidering their fidelity to Liege and Brettonia here, as some of them actually break on that second ball. You can see 20 models shaved off, and they rout. These guys wavering as well. And now the clan rats are pushing forward. I wanted to make sure to keep my opponent's bows off my catapults. You can see Ikit surging forward here to protect as well. And as you can see, immediately moving fire from the catapults onto the next unit of peasants. And you can see that both units actually break there. So that just shows the potency of Plague Claws against peasant trash. Over here, Lewin does try to interdict Ikit Claw, who is running for dear life. You can see there it takes a swipe from the Brettonian king, who's popped all his perks there, debuffing me with Sword of Corone. Here in the pit fight, it's going to be a bit of a drawn-out battle until the battle pilgrims hit, and then things are going to get a little hairy. Over here in the meantime, Rat Ogre's shifting to this flank to help deal with the Knights, Defenders of Fleur-de-Lis, as well as Knights Errant. Catapults continue pounding away on the peasant bows, and you can see the front line fight is not going well at all. Spearmen at Arms, Battle Pilgrims running over the clan rats and the Skaven slaves with ease. That said, mounted yeomen here do get intercepted, so we're going to get in on them. You can see Ikit Claw here just running these poor guys over. Mounted yeomen are pretty terrible cavalry, and probably, I'd argue, one of the worst cavalry in the game, so they're ridden off quite easily. Knights Errant getting bogged down a little bit. And as you can see, Skaven Slaves doing a decent job holding where the Battle Pilgrims aren't. Where they are, things are looking a lot less beautiful. Plague Claw Catapults continue firing away, chipping down those bows and forcing them to back the hell away, which is important. You can see some of them firing shotgun here into the blob of Knights of the Realm. With the help pit there, they're actually routed off from that terrifying fiend, and my opponent here kind of being pressured back, and I do start pulling the reserves forward. Council Guard, as well as the Skaven Slaves being thrust into the fray here to block things off. But a massive misplay on this front is going to cost me pretty badly. These Rat Ogres here got caught out. I sent them out with the Skaven Slaves looking to get an interception on these Knights, and they got wrecked. So all of a sudden, I've lost the unit of Rat Ogres there, lost some Skaven Slaves essentially. My opponent got a very cheeky pickup there. And although we are getting some surrounds here, my opponent is able to get Lewin in on the catapults, start shutting those down, which is really annoying. Definitely a bit flustering. And the Help Pit is not very good against Battle Pilgrims, so this is going to be a drawn out and not a great fight. That said, Knights of the Realm here getting pressured. I realized that these are one of the keys. So looking at my opponent's army right now, his key threats are the bows, which can pressure down my big monsters. The Summoner, who I can't really catch, so I'm not going to bother with her. And then Knights of the Realm and Lewin are two of the other big threats, because they are able to tear apart my big monsters. And so I'm trying to shut them down quickly here. The catapults are focusing on them. My opponent here using the Defenders of Fleur-de-Lis to try to shear off the Plague Claw catapult crews, but the Rat Ogres are having none of that. They do manage to pull back in there. And as you can see, Skaven Slaves being thrust into the meat grinder here, and we are going to start throwing some summons down, and that will hopefully bog my opponent down. You can see Clan Rats back here bogging these troops down, Plague Monk summons going down, and they will, of course, do quite a number on these troops. And my opponent here trying to use his archery to whittle down the Plague Priest. That's not going to fly. But unfortunately, the Rat Ogres are just having a horrible time against the Knights Errant and Battle Pilgrims. When isolated, Rat Ogres are really a pretty bad unit. And my opponent there, who I forgot to mention, did bring Lore of Beasts, does summon a Manticore, which immediately guns for my Plague Priest. And despite my best efforts there, even popping Scrying Stone, he does get routed off with Terror and is forced to flee. That said, here in the backline, the Knights of Brettonia are having a much worse time of it. The Rat Ogre mob, alongside the Help Abomination and Ikit, surrounding King Lewin. And the beloved son of Brettonia here is getting swarmed, and he's just having a pretty god-awful time. He doesn't have support. There's nothing to help him. And his decent stats aren't going to protect him when there's just so much damage coming through. You can see the Help It there. It gets a beautiful swing for about 400 damage. And here's one fun little fact. If you manage to rout Lewin off, he doesn't get regen anymore. So that is what I'm trying to do here. I'm figuring if I can rout Lewin off, he's going to be crippled for good. And he's not going to regen anymore. So we actually rout him, and he has no heals. Lewin is now stuck on this 1800 HP. In the meantime, these Knights do throw in, trying to save him. You can see the Manticore one in there as well. They do kind of succeed. They are tearing up these poor Rat Ogres rather well, though. Death Frenzy keeps them in the fray against the terror from the Manticore. But they get decent combatant on the Doom Wheel. The Help It, of course, an absolute beast, and they do tear these guys to shreds. In the meantime, here on the periphery, you can see the Knights are running amok, and the Battle Pilgrims compromising the artillery crews, and it is a running battle trying to protect the artillery pieces here. Some Plague Claws continue firing into the peasant mobs, though whiffing at point blank there. The Council Guard here pushes forward a little bit, but is then going to be sort of I'm trying to pull them back to protect my line here. And you can see summons going down. We did keep our Plague Priest around. Lewin, though, coming in for the cheeky snipe and obviously succeeding. There's not much I can do to protect this guy. Don't have him in the pocket here. So big misplay there. I did not pulling this guy in sooner. But with the Clan Rats in there, with the Help It in there, as well as the wonderful Ikit Claw, we are able to force off most of this cavalry. And that's a big win. My opponent will still have his archers, who have some of them have been routed out by the Plague Claw, but he still has a good chunk of archers there, who are a threat. But the infantry can be routed. We actually do get a beautiful brass orbs here, which is going to entangle a lot of these knights and the battle pilgrims there. Unfortunately, I do not follow it up with an immediate warp lightning, so that's a big misplay. But another manticore is going down, trying to dive in here, getting disrupted by the plague claws there a bit. But as you can see, this death ball of Skaven is going to hold up rather well. Now, we have lost the rat ogres a while ago now. I believe I'm not even sure where they've routed off to. Actually, one of the units is still around. It's chasing after Lewin here, but they are about to get wrecked because Lewin is not a bad combatant. Neither are the knights over here. The knights aren't diving in, and rat ogres don't hold up well. The cavalry, cheaper captains to trade rather well into rat ogres. And so, although I do try to get Ikit in there, getting that rear charge with the terror, it's not going to be enough to help. It's not going to be enough to save them. My opponent has removed all my high mass troops from play, so things looking a bit grim. Balance of power decisively out of my favor, although that is kind of propped up by the Feral Manticore. But one thing worth keeping in mind is that right now my opponent's army is like 90% peasants. There's some Knights Errants in there. There's Lewin. These Knights Errant are routing. And a tiny unit of Knights of the Realm is remaining. But besides that, this is a horde. There are some battle pilgrims, though they are very, very whittled down. Most of this is spearmen at arms and archers. So if I can break off Lewin, if I can remove my opponent's leadership here, we are going to be in a decent spot. Unfortunately, Manticore there does get the snipe on the Plague Priest, terrifies him, kills him, I believe. I guess he's not dead yet. He's not dead yet, but he's going to rout here. Skaven Slave's routing as well, but seeing the bounce of power 60-40 or so in my opponent's favor, I'm gunning after Lewin, trying to remove him from play here and interdict him, ignoring this Feral Manticore until I finally just throw some Skaven Slaves in there to bog it down. Because I know that if I don't kill Lewin, my chances of this victory here are very slim. We do have Skaven Slaves rallying in the distance, but their leadership is pretty terrible right now. They're not going to hold. It's really just the Council Guard here, which has actually managed to plow through my opponent's formation and is getting into the Peasant Bows, which is a critical save there. They're up to 150 kills, making Skavendom proud here. They still have passable stats even without strength in numbers, so doing a very good job. But now the Helpit is feeling the full brunt of that Peasant archery fire. It's not having a good day. Lewin here does rally with his troops. He has managed to evade murder there by the Helpit and Ikit, which is definitely not great. But as you can see, we are going to try to pick off some of these overextended troops. And you can see we're going to take some of Skaven Slaves, artillery crews, looking to collapse on these Knights Errant, force them off the map. The Damsel here does push a little forward. Helpit, unfortunately, continuing to be pressured. But big misplay here on my opponent's part is letting these Peasant Bows get caught out by this Council Guard. Council Guard do have 38 speed, so they're too quick for the Peasant Bows to escape. And they're able to overrun them. And these Skaven are really giving as good as they've received, and they're just tearing these guys to shreds, really living up to their elite name. Peasant Bows are shattered, so my opponent's artillery missiles are now shut down, and suddenly Bounce of Power, even though it looks about 50-50, is looking a lot better, because my opponent has nothing really to deal with this Helpit. You can see the Knights of the Realm there are swarming it. Now granted, a lot of peasants will drag down to Helpit. It doesn't have the best melee defense. It's actually right now it's dragged down by 24 thanks to Lewin, but normally it's 30 melee defense, which isn't great. So definitely not an ideal situation. And Lewin, of course, is providing his entire army right now with Frenzy. Though you can see there we do get a nice little Storm Demon blowing through some of those troops. We are going to drop a Brass Orb there, and that is going to snare my opponent's troops and allow the Council Guard to block up and seal off the approach to the Helpit and protect it. There are still some Peasant Bows there, but now the Skaven Slaves surging back in alongside the artillery crew, which is not where it wants to be in life, but what can you do? And despite all that archery fire, we were able to get here on Lewin, the Helpit diving through, some splash damage getting in on the King, and he is forced to flee. Fortunately, though, that Frenzy, as you can see, buffing, if we look here, so Battle Pilgrims are actually getting a double whammy with the High King buff. They've got their normal Frenzy, and then they do have the Beloved Son of Brettonia, granting them extra melee attack, though the weapon strength doesn't matter in this patch. The Spearmen at Arms, similar thing, more melee attack. And all these units getting souped up a whole bunch by the Beloved Son. And they're also getting immune to Psychology, which is making it impossible for me to tear out them. So right now, Lewin sticking around is a huge detriment to me. Fortunately, we are able to keep our troops in the fight. Flock of Doom here melting some of my soldiery, but the Council Guard is still in there. 200 kills. Absolute legends of the Skaven people. Lewin now forced to dive in, trying to salvage the situation, but he's alone. And he is getting crumped on by that big beastie. Forced to flee, removed from play. And at this point, there's not much my opponent can really do. He doesn't have the tools to deal with me. And it is going to be a Pyrrhic victory for the Skaven in a sort of 11th hour recovery. So going over the build here, I don't necessarily think this was maybe the most competitive build. I really wanted to combo Rat Ogres. I really wanted the Rat Ogres and Help Abomination to work out. And so I tried to build the composition around them. And I figured Plague Claws were the best way to deal with bowmen. Not sure that's really the case, but the fact that they've Contaminate, I think, makes them excellent. As you saw there, a single good connection is enough to rout off an entire unit of Peasant Bows. Not even like a perfect connection, just a decent one. So Contaminate just absolutely paying off there. AK Claw, of course the elites here did rather well. AK Claw, the Help Bit gained 2 chevrons. The Council Guard did very, very well, just absolutely amazing. And AK Claw, of course, racking up 200 kills, running over a lot of peasants. The rest of the build didn't hold up that well. I kind of didn't expect the Battle Pilgrims, to be honest. I expected maybe 1 or 2, but not a full line of 4. And so none of this was really able to hold up. The cheaper Cav, though, I do think kind of hurt my opponent because he didn't really have anything to shut down the Help Bit or effectively shut down the or I should say shut the Rat Ogres down quickly. I had some misplays where I let the Rat Ogres get overextended, get crumped on by the Knights, but my opponent didn't really have the elite troops to deal with this big stuff. He kind of relied on the archers, and the archers got routed off by the Plague Claws. Knights of the Realm got wrecked by the Plague Claws. And then Ikit and the Help Pit kind of just ran shop on the rest of this army. The summons also helped, I should note. The Plague Priest didn't get a lot of kills, but he did get summons. Now, for my opponent's build, I don't think it was a bad composition. I definitely think it did come very close to winning here. I think a few misplays with Lewin getting overextended and trapped out hurt him, much in the same way my Rat Ogres getting overextended hurt me quite a bit. I also do think the mismicro with the Peasant Bowman hurt a lot. 2 of them got caught out by the Council Guard, which should not have happened. If those had stuck around into the late game, they could have pincushioned my Help Bit and probably won the match there. But that did not happen, and so that was quite, in my opinion, quite an impactful decision for my opponent. But I thought the Cav play was very much on point. It definitely managed to mulch my troops. A very good choice with the Battle Pilgrims, as it turned out. They just tore through my line. I think that if I were to try to make this a little more competitive, I'd probably look to swap out the Rat Ogres for at least 1 unit of Rat Ogres for something else. Honestly, maybe even swap out like a Rat Ogres and some of the Skaven Slaves for like another unit of Stormmen with Halberds might be better, just to hold up the Cav a little better and dispatch units like Battle Pilgrims a little bit more efficiently. Obviously, they don't trade super cost effectively, but it would do better than these units, I think. But or perhaps trying to squeeze in like a Doom Flare or something like that. But regardless, well played to my opponent here. Good job, Tomato Sauce. Very close game. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. As usual, leave your thoughts, opinions, comments, and critiques down below. I will do my best to respond as soon as I can. Do thank you all for watching, and we'll see you all in the next one. Bye for now.